talk about today. It's really interesting to see how the investment markets. Well, first of all, let me say this. I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to talk about what's going on with inflation and interest rates and the Fed and all this, and then I'm going to talk about our trip. We were just out visiting with a Nexus and JP Morgan and JPS and on the floor of the exchange because it was a very interesting meeting with Tom Haynes. But let me start off by talking about talk about what's going on here. The inflation data came out today, and it was showing just a little bit up. Again, a move up that the market wasn't expecting. So, in other words, inflation is not being tamed. There's a lot of underlying rationale for why this is happening. And again, I think the importance of what I'm going to talk about here in the markets for you is just to give you more credibility and knowledge for yourself so you become more aware of what's going on and kind of what the implications of this means in the investment industry, in the insurance industry, in the financial markets as a whole. So that you are more comfortable with what you're doing. It's not to show off in front of anybody or to give them insights that you really don't completely understand. But I think this just helps you get a better rounder look of things. So the markets currently are trading off inflation news because they're looking to see when the Federal Reserve is going to start reducing interest rates. We've had interest rates rise to a 23-year high now. And so that's having a lot of effect. This is the Federal Reserve's way of trying to control inflation and slow growth down a little bit, because if you have too much growth, too fast, it causes an inflationary kind of time. And so that's their blunt. I call it a blunt instrument. It's a way of trying to control the markets and control the economy, control the interest rate environment, which is going to fuel business. But we have so many things going on, and if you read the letter, I think you get a general sense of what's going on as far as from many different kind of forward-leading kind of indicators. So you've got all these you got this banking crisis going on. You've got oil going up. You have this undertow of inflationary things that are happening that haven't really surfaced yet. So we're seeing inflation is not gone. They haven't really been able to curtail it completely. And so the big question now is, will the Federal Reserve reduce interest rates? And when will they start? You've probably heard the talk about the soft landing. So what that really means is they're trying to ease the pressure of the market and then reduce them so the market doesn't go through a major correction, a gyration. And that's really hard to do. In fact, in the last 100 years, I think it's only happened one time. So you're looking at a circumstance here that we're dealing with today with Fed, that they're trying to continually look at means of controlling markets, and they know it takes time. You raise interest rates that fast over the last year and a half, almost two and a half years, it's going to start to have an effect. The biggest employer in the U.S. economy right now is still the federal government. So they added more jobs. And I think, when we're in an election year like this, you're going to see more and more kind of the current administration wanting to keep the markets good, wanting to keep valuations good, pricing on houses solid. So you have that aspect working kind of to, I believe, create a false valuation out there. And I'm a very optimistic guy. I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm just trying to point out the facts for everybody, because I think overall the best place you can put your money is in these indexes for the long term. Indexes for the long term. Indexes through the vehicles that we offer here at HDI are powerful, powerful tools in order to, like an FIA or an IUL, that we create a base of no loss. You can't lose anything. And all we do is try to add on to it. Well, this is the long-term secret of investing, is you don't want to lose money. And that's just, that's knowledge of you understanding when you're talking to people, that you explain to them the worst thing you can do with investments, and why a lot of people shy away from them is they lose money because they don't have any insight of when to get in, when to get out. They don't have any professional guidance. So we're trying to enlighten everybody here so that you can be that voice of reason sometimes, with people explaining things like this. So we've got a lot of conditions kind of circling around here, I call it, that are affecting the markets right now, which is all based on inflation. When the next cycle of earnings comes out, you're going to see that that's going to have a big influence on the price of the Dow Jones or the S&P 500 and those kind of things. So just think about this in the big picture of, will the Fed reduce interest rates this year? It was originally thought they're going to do it 5 times and it went to 3. Now they're even talking, will they maybe do it once or twice? So we don't know yet what's going to happen, but overall inflation is not going away. In fact, those reasons I'm talking about with you today about the price of oil, transportation costs going up, these are underlying inflationary trailing effects that's going to keep inflation high. And then you've got think of all the things that affects in our world. So just be aware of that. I'm going to jump now to this discussion we had with Tom Haynes yesterday. I know Jody's probably going to briefly talk about it too. Very insightful, because if you understand how FIAs and IULs work, it's important that you grasp. And I'm going to repeat this. I think we've talked about this before, but options are really traded in these in the insurance companies. They're option trades, basically on different indexes, and that's the way they put up, the kind of earnings that you can get in a fixed index annuity. And so what happens is the insurance companies make these option trades, and what's going on behind the scene, and Tom Haynes got into a lot of detail with this when we had our meeting at JP Morgan yesterday, actually. And so what happens is banks basically take and they trade their balance sheet. So Wall Street banks, these are fiduciary type of Series 7 principals, are trading their balance sheet of their banks, and they trade it to the insurance company. So the insurance company is basically insulated from risk. Now, this is a little heavy to understand, or very deep, but it's interesting to kind of get the grasp the concept that all of this is built around safety. Insurance companies don't like to lose money. You may have heard Paul Dietrich talk about this too, and other people. And because the insurance industry is making some guarantees, and we don't use that word very often in our industry as guaranteeing anything, but they guarantee it with their own assets. It's not like it's not guaranteed by the U.S. government. It's guaranteed by what they do and the assets that they have behind them. And so this means of these bankers, these Wall Street bankers, actually trade their balance sheet with the insurance company to help protect them, to insulate them. So it gives them exposure to the index crediting efforts that they're doing. So that's really what's going on. That's the essence of how they protect assets within their own kind of products. And so right now, the common index people might know is the S&P 500. That's pretty simple. They buy all the shares in the S&P 500, and then that average weighted movement, negative or positive, will give you an indication of what with market caps and different features of an FIA or an IUL, has different implications of how that money will grow. So right now there's over 200 indexes, according to Tom Haynes, and what he does is he works with very high level professionals at JP Morgan and also industry experts that basically they try to figure out, a collectively a way of looking at all these indexes in order to get the best one. This is what's driving their Zebra Fund, which they offer through a number of insurance carriers like Nationwide, North American, Athene. And this kind of a diversification is really the secret to these kind of products. Is we always talk about diversification. You never want to have all your apples in one area, right? You want to make sure people diversify, and they're taking that kind of theory or that same circumstance basically into investing in insurance companies, so that when you offer a product like a Nationwide, an Athene, a North American, a F&G, they're really very diversified in these indexes and offer different ones, where a Nexus actually takes it to a different level. And they're also pricing everything on a daily basis, versus a lot of them will correct, will give you their index rate or accrediting area on a quarterly basis, whereas index does it on a daily basis. So if you pull out of something, you're actually going to get the performance up to that moment that you're pulling out, versus the end of a quarter or the beginning of a quarter. So I just wanted to talk about this for a second, because when we use illustrations as an example, illustrations are really there to to show people how the product works. You can never give an illustration and say you're going to make 6, 7, 8%, because illustrations never work out 100%. They're there as a tool for you, just to show people how they work. So that was kind of Tom's whole thing, Jody, and I thought he did a great job of explaining a lot of this and the importance of diversification and what they do. And I think it's a really insightful kind of a means to tell everybody here on our call today how important it is to really talk about diversification, these different indexes and how they work, and how these insurance companies really protect their assets versus it being invested in the market. So, and the other thing, Jody, and I know you heard this, how he said we're in that Cinderella, what do you call it? We're in that really great time right now in the index annuity side and IULs.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim. It was an amazing event, and it was, I especially enjoyed being there with you and with Steve, knowing that we're so blessed. So thank you for your update. And not to contradict, but I think you said JP Morgan, it was Goldman Sachs. But
yeah, I'm sorry, Goldman Sachs. What was I saying?
We got to give them the credit, right?
Yeah.
No, but
Goldman Sachs. Sorry.
No, that's okay. But awesome. Thank you so much, guys. It was a very special trip, and I just want to give you a little feedback on this. And if you want to stay on, Tim, and anything you want to jump in on this part, you can. But the thing I want you guys to understand is that this is big business, and it was amazing to be there and for them to know our story. That they knew it was like Hubert was Paul Bunyan. His story of what he had done before was larger than life, and to know that all these companies, and I'm talking the intellectual power in that room, Tim. It was stunning. It was to hear Tom talk. It was like this guy designed and created the products, the Zebra Fund inside of a Nexus, and he created it. I mean, and he's always created these indices and all these different things. I'm lucky to even know the word indices. I'm impressed that I even know what that word is. But it was amazing. And then we had one of the partners come in. You got to understand, this was a big deal. This guy, there's only 400 partners in the world with Goldman Sachs. He was a fairly young guy, but he's just brilliant, and he knew who we were, understood that we have made an impact on what we do has the attention of the highest levels of minds and financial backing in the world, and it is a great relationship. these relationships because of the volume of business that we've done in the past with the system. This is a testament to the leader. Back and look at the leadership format system. It has done so much production, so much premium, so much wealth has been moved because of the system that it has got the attention of these great companies on Wall Street. And you know, I was looking at the power alignment, guys. No matter who you are, you may be some part-time person that's joining our company, but all of a sudden you tie around you and it's there to support you. You know, the guys at Nexus were talking about the power that they do. They then are able to leverage the volume of Goldman Sachs. You know, in Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and maybe one other. These are companies that have made America. They've made Wall Street. There's just a handful of them. And this guy, to have him there, to be in the room, take his time to know who we are, was just a phenomenal thing. And we hold the key to their growth. Growth comes from new distribution, new and innovative distribution. Think about this. We're using all the new innovation along with a tried and true system with it leadership of integrity. And I'm not talking about integrity of the company, but of integrity of men and women. They were talking about trust. The word trust was used several times there. And you would be surprised at where these guys were so brilliant analytically. And I'm talking Wharton, Harvard, those kinds of people, that they said at the end of the day, trust was the most important thing. That guy said that, who was the head of the Goldman Sachs guy there. And so did Tom when he was talking about, okay, that means that you're able to go sit down with a family who's maybe struggled, who's trying to find a way to get their financial house in order, and to deliver them world-class products. And what's amazing with a Nexus is this company that literally goes out and they manage the sub-accounts. But understand, we have a Nexus through HCI. We have them through North American, Nationwide, and Athene. So literally you can get a Nexus great way of doing business, and through a Nexus you get the leverage of Goldman Sachs. And so here I was just amused that this guy from a railroad conductor in Macon, Georgia, who struggled all these years, here has the absolute ear and eyes of Wall Street. And so it's exciting. And we had a VIP tour that was just amazing. And the same guy, Tom, he was kind of an interesting mix. He was brilliant, but he was also very affable, very almost fun. And he took us on a tour that was just amazing. We went to all these back rooms and we're able to see things and do things that I've never been able to do. And I've been there before, but it was an amazing thing. And I watched that, and to be there with Steve, and I know it meant a lot to Steve Gross because he even said it was the best tour he had been on there. And Steve's brought 11 companies he's been part of taking public. So he's been there, and he can't wait for us to go through all that we're going through. So this is big business. We have world-class companies that the one thing I took away from it was that they have a philosophy. They have a way of doing business with a Nexus that they're committed to. And there's never any one index or any one way of in these companies that's the answer. They very much believe in a combination of all their indexes. So very exciting, very powerful. It was a vision stretcher for me. And I was a little bit, kind of raw and emotional at the end of that video. I made a live video on Instagram, just kind of my thoughts when I was in the room alone. We kept staying to where there was about 5 of us, and I kept saying, it's not a good meeting unless they kick you out. We're rolling around the 42nd floor of the most beautiful building that I had ever been in terms of an office setting, because you had all these multiple views from all sides of seeing New York. On one wall, you saw the Statue of Liberty in the conference room, and I'm like, this is the greatest view. But then, Tim, I walked to the other end, and then you can see all the Empire State Building, all of New York. And then I went out the other window, and I was face to face with the World Trade Center, the new building. And I was like, good. I was just overwhelmed. So I shared some thoughts. And one of the thoughts I said has gained traction. I've actually heard about it from a few of you guys, and Kimberly even used a quote from it and put it out on her Instagram. And that was that every now and then there's a moment worthy of your greatest effort. And that, I just said that, and I feel that. I feel that right now we have a moment with all these things lined up. You could not make up the scenario that's here for us that is worthy of your career best effort. So thank you, Tim, for your thoughts and, you know, and being there with me. And I really enjoyed it. It was awesome.
I enjoyed it too. It was a phenomenal experience, and everything Jody said, multiply that by 2. I mean, just to know that we have those kind of resources behind us is absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then also, guys, listen, you didn't miss anything that wasn't the top guys in the company. It was the top people who produced annuities with an Nexus. There was several people who are big leaders that didn't go. There's going to be other trips, but you also want to be doing enough with whoever that when the trips come that they call your name. And it was awesome to lead us as we go through. Zach and Kimberly do a phenomenal job. And guys, for those of you who hadn't heard of it, you're in for a treat. So we've got some case studies. Many of you are going to ask the question, how can you maximize what you just heard? How can you go maximize the annuity market? Because listen, they did say, and this is what Tim was alluding to, that this is the golden age, the golden era, specifically of the annuity world, and IULs as well. But there's a huge opportunities that you haven't found your way to yet, and we want to help you go find out where it is. And understand you got to be in the right market and ask the right questions to get to take advantage of what we're talking about. So that's what we're going to talk about now. So Kimberly, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Your cell phone signal is a little splotchy.
Still, there we go.
Can you hear me? Your signal's a little splotchy in there.
Okay.
But we heard you. We heard you. So we appreciate that. One little housekeeping note, and I'm not a Zoom expert, but I see the closed captioning continues to change from English to Spanish to English to Spanish. And I think you guys are fighting with that on your end. I think somebody changes it to Spanish and somebody else changes it back to English. If English is your first language and they set it to Spanish, leave it at Spanish because it might be the only way they can understand us. Okay, so just do that. If I'm misunderstanding the back and forth, then it is what it is. But if somebody wants to set it to Spanish so you can understand and translation's better, please do so. Before we get started, I'm going to take this off of speaker view and put it on gallery view. But can anybody explain to me what an annuity is in just simple 3rd grade conversation?
It's a guaranteed tax-free income stream at retirement, correct?
Can be used, it can be used for a guaranteed income stream at retirement. It is not tax-free.
I retract that.
Yeah, but it can be used for a guaranteed income stream. What else?
Preserve wealth.
Preserve wealth. It can be used to preserve your wealth. What else?
So when I explain an annuity, I explain it basically as a contract with an insurance company. Think of it as a pension plan, maybe. And this is where mainly 2 reasons you're able to have a guaranteed income stream or wealth accumulation. When doing an index annuity, basically, depending if it's an index annuity, you're able to participate on the market in an index where you have that growth. You have that 0 floor, so you don't participate in the loss. There's some extra benefits from an annuity that will allow you to have maybe like a long-term disability rider or living benefits. So even though that is not a contract, even though it's not life insurance, it's a contract with a life insurance policy that will allow you to, reap some of those benefits, plus a death benefit that can come along with it.
Is that death benefit tax-free?
No, annuities are not tax-free. They're tax deferred.
LaShawn. Anybody else? Good job. Thank you, LaShawn. That was fantastic. Anybody else?
Um, I'll go. So to my understanding, an annuity is a product that's offered by life insurance companies, which is tax deferred, it has principal protection, and it can be structured and designed to guarantee you a lifetime income stream until you pass away, and you can also attach a beneficiary to the product.
Perfect. Awesome. Great explanation. Sheena, I saw your hand. Oh, I don't hear you yet though. You're not muted. I just don't hear you. I think it must be a different speaker, microphone or something.
Kimberly, I'll give my elevator pitch, okay?
Okay.
Guaranteed lifetime income. Okay, guaranteed lifetime income. If someone to ask me, what's an annuity? Well, if you're looking for an annuity, and if you're looking for a guaranteed lifetime income, ask me more. Sit down with me.
Yeah, awesome. And it's important to remember not all annuities have guaranteed lifetime income, right? You might not
True.
use it for that income stream, but it definitely is a great use for it. Sheena, are you there yet?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, thank
Hi.
you. It gives the annuitant the ability to customize their income.
Yeah, awesome. Gives you the ability to customize your income. That's a great explanation too. Anybody else have anything they want to say? Speak now or forever.
Hey,
Joe?
you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, I looked at it. The annuity is an entitlement for a series of annual sums based upon the type of the annuity, the variable or indexed. So, index is going to have a fixed rate, predictable income stream. Variable, you're rolling dice. But it's a form of an entitlement for a lifetime of stream, depending on which one you choose.
Right. And we don't do, thank you, Joe. We don't do variable annuities here at HGI. So know that we just do indexed. A couple of things about it. Remember, you're tracking an index. So interest rates are not guaranteed unless you're in the fixed account on those accounts, but your floors are. So I'm going to share my screen and show you. This is an oldie, but I love this visual. So let me see if I can get here. From current slide. I love this visual because it puts numbers to it for me and it just makes sense. So remember, on an index annuity, you have a guaranteed floor that you can never lose. And as you track the upswings of the market every year or every 2 years, whatever your crediting method is set, then you're going to lock in your gains, which means that every time you lock in that gain, that's your new floor. And that's important to know, especially in a market right now that's super volatile. We don't have to worry about, in an indexed account, we don't have to worry about losing, right? We just want that money to be able to grow. It might not make nearly as much as a market account would make on occasion, but it also won't lose what a market account could lose on occasion. So I really like this example, and it compares it between an S&P, value and then an index value. So if you look at this, let me see, does this thing work? I don't know if I really have a pointer, but we're going to just pretend. So here's your S&P value here. Here is your index value here. So that's what you're looking at, the difference. So if we were in this account in 2000, and you can see that it's got a 0% floor and a 13% cap on the index value, meaning that even if the market did 50% on the indexed account, your maximum that you're going to return is 13%, right? You guys understand that. So in this example that we have on our screen, the market returned 19.5% in 2000. If I put $100,000 in 2000 in my 401k, in my market account, right, I would have $119,000 in that account. In my indexed account, I would only have $113,000 in that account because my cap was 13%. So if we're looking at it for that first year, we lost, right? That wasn't a good deal. I'd rather be in the market. And when the market's going gangbusters, that's what people see and that's what people think. But when the market starts to correct itself, that's when people really understand the value of an indexed annuity. So in this example, in 2001, the market went down negative 10.14%. So my 401k went to 107. My indexed account stayed the same at 113. The next year, it went down 13%. My 401k went to 93,000. My index stayed the same at 113. The next year, the market went down negative 23%. The market, my 401k, right? My market account, whether it's qualified or not, but most people have a 401k, was at 71,000. My indexed account was at 113,000. So you see the difference between those accounts. Now, in 2004, in this example, the market returned over, or the S&P returned over 26%, right? So my market account, now I'm winning again. Now I'm getting 20% on my money, 26% on my money, and I'm losing in my index, at least in my mind, because I'm only getting 13%, right? But the problem is, and this is where we see the zero's your hero, and this is where we see the when does 50% cost you 100%? The problem is when this account goes up to 26% the next year, when the market goes up, I'm starting from 71,000. So yes, I earned 26%, but it only brings me to $90,000 because I lost some money, right? So my indexed account is still, it started at 113. So even though I only earned 13%, it was added to that 113,000. So now I'm at 127,000. You guys see that? And you can see that as we go through 8.99%, we're now at 98,000. I get that full 8.99 because my cap in this example is 13%. So now I'm at 139. 3%, I get the full 3% on both accounts, and you can see all the way through. You can see the correction in 2009 and see all the way through. But ultimately, the difference between all of these changes over 12 years was only 2.19%. So my account, with all the ups and downs and everything at the end of that, ended up at 102,000 for my 401k, let's say. Remember, we call 2000 and 2010 the lost decade. This is why. I started out with 100,000. I ended up with 102. I lost 10 years of my earning potential, right, during that period of time. In my indexed account, because I had those guarantees and because I had those floors that protected me against the downtimes, I ended up with $213,000, which is a difference of 4.5% over the term of the contract. So I love this example because it allows me to see in actual numbers. And you guys have seen some of these. Let me see if I can make this move. You guys have, I don't know how to, let me stop this share. So all my little squigglies go away. And I'll start it again. You guys have seen, most of what we've seen are, these slides, and it says exactly the same thing. It shows you in just a graph form. It shows you the red line is, your market-based account. The green line is going to be your indexed account, and the blue line is just a simple fixed account. But it shows you here, being able, being able to lock in your gains. You see those locks on these screens. That's exactly what we were showing in the other account where the market went down. In the indexed account, it doesn't. So you're able to lock your gains. So I think it's important to see that. I think it's important to understand it. I think it's important to know how it works. And in my opinion, there are two reasons people would use an indexed annuity. Number one is simply because they want to grow their money and they want to grow it in a safer, more slow and steady way, right? Than in that market account that's going to have those ups and downs. They don't have to use this money inside that indexed annuity for income. They can, but they don't have to. They can just say, hey, I have $100,000. I don't want to lose it, but I don't want to just stick it in a CD because I'd like to have, hopefully a little more growth than I might get one day. Or they could use a totally separate reason, and they could use it to create their own personal pension plan because we don't have pensions anymore. So what happens at retirement time when it's time to retire and you've got $500,000 sitting there, how do you access that money? How do you use that money to bring in as income to you? You can use that money to just pull from it, right? You can just pull from that account and sorry, I'm playing my speaker here. You can just pull from that account and use it and use that 4% rule and hope you don't run out. Or you can put it in an indexed annuity. You can guarantee your income stream for the rest of your life. And worst case scenario, you're never going to run out of that money. So I think we're in a perfect time, like Jody said, a perfect storm, if you will. The market, from everything that we've said before, is going to correct. It is going to change. And when it does, where are you in your retirement journey? If you're close to retirement or you are retired, you can't afford a 20% correction, a 40% correction, a 50% correction. You can't afford that, because if you lose 20%, how much do you have to earn to get back to starting? Anybody know? 40. Right? Whatever you lose, just double it. And that's what you have to get back to start over again. So if I lose 20% of my account, I've got to earn 40% to be back to where I was before I actually start earning money and going forward. So I think those are the things I wanted to explain to you guys about. Do you have any questions about annuities and where to find them and how that works? And does anybody have any specific annuity questions, or do you have a really good idea of how, like, why you would use an annuity? Oh, good. You're trained. Perfect. We can close this
Hey,
meeting today.
no.
Yeah.
I have a
I
question,
wish.
Kimberly.
Yeah, sure, Crystal.
So my question is, so when we're talking about annuities, does the amount of funds a client has determine that the annuities that they have available to them? Because to my knowledge, or my understanding of annuities, based on the amount of money they have maybe in their IRA or 401k, that's going to determine what options they have available, because I know that some insurance companies do not accept rollovers that are below a certain amount. Is that inaccurate, or maybe I have a misconception?
Nope, that's accurate. But we can find them as low as like $2,500 to start, something like that. So there are companies that will go low on annuities, and there's some that won't. A couple of things to remember, in my opinion, maybe I'll never say never, especially since I'm live streaming to YouTube, but I don't really see a purpose for a $2,500 annuity. I mean, what are you going to do with it? What's it going to do for you? Is it going to give you income? Do you really want to protect that $2,500? Like, to me, it doesn't really make sense. I know I've seen it in the past. I've seen people write them. I've seen agents write them. Do what you think is best for your client. But to me, it's used to protect that principal, right? Or it's used to guarantee an income stream. And if the principal isn't worth protecting because I really need that $2,500 to grow, maybe I should look somewhere else for that. And if I'm trying to create an income stream, that's not going to create that for me as well. But yes, annuity companies. So I think the best way to understand annuities, because there are a million of them, right, is to understand just in general, again, how they work. I'm either protecting my principal with that guaranteed floor and that possibility for growth, or I'm guaranteeing my income because I want to know what my paychecks are going to be for the rest of my life. Simply, period, right? And then we can go back and we can look and say, okay, this client has, $100,000 and these are their goals with it, right? It's more for, they want to guarantee their death benefit. So there are annuities out there that have a death benefit multiplier, right? That will increase that death benefit if that's their only goal, is to turn that 100,000 into as big of a death benefit as they can without having insurability. Then that's what we'll go look for, right, at that moment. But I think in general, it's best to understand what you need an annuity for. And again, that's to preserve your principal or to guarantee your income. in most cases. And then you go back out and you find the annuity. And I think, we talked about this earlier, Gail and I did with one of her new teammates, and, they're from the health insurance world and they have a lot of different providers as well. And she was like, I would rather choose a few that I become kind of an expert at and know that the other pieces are there if needed, but I don't have to go to them and learn them every single day. Same here. So every time I have an annuity, I'm typically going to go out to my 1 or 2 annuity providers. I've shown you guys the North American chart before where it's got all of their annuities on there. So if I know that I've got a $10,000 piece that for some reason somebody wants to put it in an annuity, I'm going to simply look through that chart of all the North American annuities on that one page. I'm going to go, which ones will hold 10,000? Because if they won't hold 10,000, it doesn't matter, right? We can't do it. There's nothing to even talk about. If I have somebody that typically I use annuities for lump sum money. I don't use annuities for monthly contributions. I don't typically like that for my client's portfolio, and it doesn't make sense, in my opinion, a lot of times. But if somebody needs to do or wants to add to an annuity on a monthly basis, then you need to find an annuity that will allow you to add to it on a monthly basis. Because some of them are single premium. And if they're single premium, they won't accept any more deposits into that annuity. But I'm not going to go sit down and learn every single annuity that North American has, Athene has, F&G has, AIG has, and Nexus has until I have a need for that annuity. Does that make sense? And I'll tell you, our go-tos right now, just on our team and personally, Mary Kay and Gail and I have done a lot with Nationwide, and have really like anyway, whatever that adjective or that verb word that I'm trying to say that I know I'm going to say it incorrectly. We've looked into that and done a lot of research on that particular product because it is, and I ran a couple of them side by side just to see the guaranteed income piece. But from what I've seen, it's the best guaranteed income product on the market. So if I have somebody that needs an income piece, I'm going to go to Nationwide through Nexus. Why not, right? Even if I have zero performance, I can guarantee their income because they have that 30% bonus on their income. That's a no-brainer to me. A second go-to for us is F&G's, I don't remember the name of it, but it's got the 15% bonus on the money. So if I'm not worried about an income stream, I'm just worried about how much my money can grow, maybe I'll put that 15% bonus on it because 100,000 goes to 115,000 immediately, right? And then my account starts working off of that money. So I'll have a few go-tos like that in my head that I know what I'm looking for. But then if there's something like Gail and I have a client that is potentially interested in an annuity that they can contribute monthly and also has a death benefit guarantee on it because he doesn't think he's insurable. So if he isn't insurable, he's trying to figure out how to maximize as much as possible past his family in the event of his death. Well, that's not typical. So now I got to go find that one. But I'm not going to just have it sitting in my encyclopedia in my brain because that's wasting my space, right? I'm going to go out to those carriers and I'm either going to, typically I'll probably look through their descriptions of their annuities because they're all back there before I start calling product providers. But you could just call them and say, hey, do you have an annuity that fits this scenario? Because that's what they do too on their sales desks. But hopefully that helps. Hopefully that gives you guys some understanding and some information about annuities. Do you guys have any questions for me at all?
Hey, Kimberly, I just wanted to make one point also, not to complicate matters, but if it's in a qualified plan, you still have the tax advantages of it being in a qualified plan. You know what I mean? So like if you're rolling over a 401k or an IRA into an annuity, it's still in that same wrapper.
Correct.
So you
It's
still
still
get the
qualified.
tax benefits. Right. It's still qualified. So you get the tax free from or tax deferred from that side.
Yes.
So not because of the actual product itself. So let's just go back, simplify it from a high end, and you got to delve in and you got to learn this stuff. And the more you're around it, the more you'll understand. But let's just go back to basics. If you've got somebody who is brand new and they're out, how do they know to identify from an FNA a potential candidate? Just, you know, a normal person who doesn't, you don't even understand half of what Kimberly said. It's okay. I want to make sure you understand where this fits and what you're looking for. So welcome to that. Kimberly.
All right, so I think you said.
I don't know if Kimberly's there. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, was it bad? Was it warbly?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. So how do you know that we should even talk about an annuity on an F&A, right? Remember that first appointment is to gather all of the information. So I've had my F&A, I've gathered all my information. I have like 50 of them literally right here on my desk. How do I know that I should even pull the word annuity out of my mouth? Who can tell me? What are we looking for on that F&A? We talked about it last week.
We're definitely looking for lump sum money.
Lump sum money.
Mhm.
Yes, correct.
And then I would think also too, like how quickly are they going to need access to it? Do they need it to be more liquid? Because if they need access to it right away, it might not, an annuity might not be a good fit.
Right, because there are surrenders on annuities, right? For however many years, there are surrenders on annuities. And used to, all annuities had a minimum 10%, free withdrawal. Now that is not the case. There are some annuities that don't have free withdrawals. There's some annuities that their withdrawal rates are 5%. There's some annuities that you can pay a bonus or pay a fee and have it move up to 10%. Or if you don't take it this year, then that rolls to 20%. So if liquidity is an issue, Gail's absolutely right. There's no reason to put all of their money into an annuity for a guaranteed income stream if they need $50,000 next year, right? Because then they're just going to break that annuity and it's going to mess up the income stream and it doesn't make sense. And they're going to pay surrenders probably because they probably didn't put $500,000 over there to get that 10%. So you have to think about all those different things. One thing I wanted to mention, and LaShawn, I hope you're okay if I mentioned this, but I think it's important to know that, you reached out and asked a question about a current 401k. Can you move money from a 401k to an annuity? If you're in a current 401k with your current employer, the only way you can move money from a 401k to an annuity without taking a withdrawal is if your employer allows for in-service transfers. Most of them don't. Ideally they do, but most of them don't. So if they don't, we can't do that transfer into an annuity because then they're not going to allow it. And if we did take that money out, if for some reason they allowed us to, that would be considered a distribution, which would be taxable. And we'd have penalties on, right? So I want you guys to remember that typically the only thing that we can do, the only money like that we can move are old 401ks from previous employers, and things like that.
And by the way, Kimberly, real quick, that's true moving it to anywhere, guys. In other words, that's not just an annuity rule. They can't move it to Paul Dietrich. They can't move it anywhere.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Jody, for that.
Kim, if I can add, it's important too, when you're talking about lump sum, be careful because a lot of times when you do the F&A, if you have lump sums, if you have 50,000 in a 401k and then 50,000 in a Roth IRA or savings account, you cannot combine qualified funds with non-qualified funds. So if you're thinking that you're getting ready to do 100,000, annuity, you can't combine those two different qualifications. So that's kind of like a important take note on that.
It's very important. Thank you, LaShawn, for that. There's also something else. If we're moving qualified funds into an annuity, Mary Kay and I are doing that later this afternoon. So if we're moving qualified funds into an annuity and the person is over, I think now, I can't remember, I think it's 73 that they have to be to take their RMDs now. You got to plan for those RMDs. So in this particular case, we're putting this money into Nationwide because we're guaranteeing that income stream. But she's also having to pull, based on her age, her RMDs. And Nationwide, we can't use that annuity for the first year, or then we lose that income guarantee, right? So we want that income guaranteed, but we want it guaranteed in a year. Well, I know she has to take RMDs this year, right? We're not moving all of our money because I would never recommend put everything into an annuity. It doesn't make sense. But I have to make sure that we keep out enough of that money that we are investing so she can pull the RMD for the total value of all of her qualified accounts from money that she has access to, because we don't want to touch that annuity when it's there. Does that make sense? Let me say that again. So basically, RMDs are required minimum distributions from qualified accounts when you reach a certain age, right? It's required. The government says you got to pull a certain amount. So if we take all of her money and we put it into an annuity that she can't access for a year, then where am I going to get my RMD from? She can't pull it without affecting that annuity, which is surrenders. And it's, it messes up the contract, and that's not what it's designed to do. So I have to keep that much out, so I have access to it for this year to pull, because the government says I have to. So then next year, my income stream will suffice for my RMD, for my total account. Make sense? Okay. So lots of different things, but ultimately, again, to keep it simple, if you do an F&A and if you take all of that data and ask all of those questions, you will see that money. If you don't take an F&A and you don't ask all those questions, you're never going to see lump sums because you're not asking about them, right? So that's why this form is designed to walk you through all of those questions and everything that you need to ask, so you can have the ability to help them with everything. I'm trying to think about who it was. Oh, we had a client with one of Gail's ladies, one of her new teammates yesterday, that was a follow-up from an F&A we did a week or so ago. And the lady came to her for life insurance, and that's what she wanted. And thankfully that agent's new and she's very coachable. She's doing amazing. So tell her I said that, Gail. And when she watches it back, she'll see. But she's doing amazing and she's very coachable. So instead of saying, all right, let me see what I can quote you, how much do you want? She was like, yeah, sure. Let me introduce you to Kimberly. She's helping me with that side of my business now. And she'll walk you through the process, because we want to gather some information and make sure we make the proper recommendation for life insurance. She didn't say, I want to sit you down and do a financial needs analysis and ask you everything, including the color of your underwear, right? She just said, hey, Kimberly wants to make sure that she recommends the right thing, right? So on that appointment, you've heard me do it a million times. We get to know each other, and I said, I'm going to ask you some questions. Are you okay with that? Just to make sure that we give you the proper recommendations. She said, yeah, sure, absolutely. Went through everything, including the last question, how much can you afford to set aside on a monthly basis? And she said between $5,000 and $6,000 a month. Everything that she's funding, she's overfunding everything in her portfolio by $36,000 a year. That is not match money. So that now puts another $3,000 a month I can add to that 5,000 or 6,000, right? And she's got all these accounts that we can now pull over to our WFS and have that actively managed by us, because we ask all of those questions. But she only wanted a life insurance policy. That's all she wanted. That's all she came here for. But she was so thankful that we gave her the education about the tax strategies of what she's currently doing now. And now we're investing not all of that $9,000 a month, because that would not be proper, right? But we're taking $5,000 a month and we're splitting it with her and her husband. We're putting $2,000 a month in our savings account, because that's what should happen. And we're taking those qualified assets that are already behind the tax wall. I can't get them out from there without taxes and penalties. So we're just going to manage those assets, but we aren't going to fund them. But the only reason we know that is because we asked those questions and because we did that F&A. Because if we had just talked to her about life insurance, that's all we would have gotten. And I'm going to let you speak, James, I promise. But just so everyone knows, that is a brand new agent, not from this world. She's licensed because she's been in the health insurance world. It's almost a $30,000 commission for, to the grid on all of the things that we're doing. And it's a split with her because she's licensed. So she's going to make about $6,500 on her very first case, that all she did was say, hey, meet Kimberly. That's a testament to our system, but she's also been trained. So when she does go out on her own and ask those questions, now she knows what to do, and then she can make all the money in the world. I don't want to do her F&As forever. I just want her to know to ask the questions properly so she can make money. And not all clients are going to be that way, but that one was. It's a pretty happy day, right? Gail's going to make a pretty penny on it too. She wasn't even there. It's just the way our system works. James.
So she was just looking to get a life insurance policy and paying about how much per month for that life policy?
I mean,
Couple hundred bucks? Couple
I
hundred
was
bucks to
selling term
5,000 to
too.
9,000?
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Crazy.
It's crazy, but it's crazy. But I think the proof is in the pudding. I mean, it's the F&A that draws the pain out of the process and pokes holes in that process and really brings to light the available money that's out there. And I think the more and more we use it, I love using it because it's a great tool and it's an eyebrow raiser and it perks ears and raises eyebrows. And that not just on our end, but on the client's end as well, because there's things that we ask that are found on that F&A that we otherwise would not ask if we were just looking to push a product like life
Exactly.
that uncovers so much more. And I think that's just another value add to the client, the asking of those questions, because it really gets them thinking. And then they see how serious the process is, and that we're not just coming to push a product and make a sale, but we actually do have their best interest at heart. And that we're able to take that to create that plan to then deliver above and beyond their expectations coming into the call to begin
And
with.
they'll be your client forever because of that.
Hey, and what a couple of things on this too, and I know we're up against the time, but let's just finish this point up. It takes a certain finesse to do F&As. It takes building relationships. It takes honesty. They've got to feel they can trust you, and you can't be a bull in a china shop just coming in asking people a bunch of stuff they're not comfortable giving you. And so you got to read the room. And I'm not talking one person. I mean, James asked the question, so I mean, made the comment, but I'm talking about this with everybody and myself included. You got to read the situation. Sometimes you're just going to write it out. Literally, you might begin at F&A and realize, well, that's all this person needs right now is a term policy. But you set them up and let them know you're going to be there for them to help develop the plan as they build wealth in their life. But just come in and understanding that you're dealing with something real important to people, and a lot of times they're very private, and you got to make them feel they got to feel comfortable, and you just remember that as we go through there. I just wanted to reemphasize that.
Yeah, I agree. And my F&As, and for any of you that have ever been on them, they're very casual. They're very comfortable. It's, they're, I'm like, how much do you own your credit cards? And they're like, I'm like, ish, I don't need to know to the number. I need ish, I just want estimates and general ideas. And I think when you say things like that, they feel so much more comfortable, that it doesn't have to be, so specific. And so, funny, I'm doing a CEO over here on the left, so if you hear it in the background.
She's exactly right, because especially when you ask people their income, you can say roughly, what ballpark. Those kinds of phrases help immensely.
Yeah. Any other questions before we sign off for today? No? Okay. Mary Kay, do you have a question? You're unmuted.
Oh, I did unmute. Hey, just real quickly, Kimberly, and can you just confirm, because, we talked about the annuities, and if you roll money into an annuity that is not currently in a qualified plan, then that money is still tax deferred until you actually take a withdrawal?
Correct. So non-qualified money. So, qualified money is pre-tax that goes in and it grows tax deferred until you access it. Non-qualified money is just like money in your bank account, right? Money in a brokerage account, whatever, that was after tax dollars that you've just invested somewhere, gathered somewhere. When you put non-qualified money into an annuity, it still grows tax deferred, and you don't pay taxes on that growth until you access that money on the back end. When you do that, I think I'm supposed to be taking a quiz. When you do that, when you access that money, annuities are last in, first out. So LIFO, if you remember that from your licensing class, last in, first out. So if it's a non-qualified asset, I put $100,000 in, it's grown to 200,000, and now I want to start accessing it. I'm going to access that 100,000 that hasn't been taxed first. And that money will be taxed as I pull it out as ordinary income. And then when I get down to my basis of that 100,000 that's left, then that's not going to be taxed because it was taxed before I put it in there. Make sense?
Yeah, so that first 100,000 under the LIFO method, then it's all taxable income then at that
Any
point.
growth is taxable and it will come out before your principal.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. See you soon, guys. I think Jody posted a note about the BOP at 1:30. Joe, did you have something to say?